Alright, here we go. One of the most highly anticipated games in, well, forever. CD Projekt Red's sterling previous work and long teasing marketing campaign had the gaming world salivating at the prospect of their new futuristic adventure. Now, I know you've probably read bad things. Very bad things. But as always, I'm going to be honest and unbiased and try and dissect every aspect of this game and score it according to our 10 pillars of gaming. This is Cyberpunk 2077. Should I buy it? Before we begin, if you're watching this review close to when I have posted it, you'll know that currently the game has lots of bugs on last-gen consoles. It's been torn apart by mainstream reviewers and is even facing lawsuits. Now, I will get into those bugs and my feelings on them, but please don't be too disappointed about this game. The developers have done so much right. It's also worth noting I played Cyberpunk on PS4. Now, if you're on PC or next gen, then most of the bugs I mention later probably won't apply to you. Let's begin with our first pillar, the story. We already know that CD Projekt Red already have a pretty good track record for telling a good story. And I've got to say, it's a really strong narrative. Once past the prologue, you're launched into a deep and winding road, which feels wholesome, complete with shocks along the way. Naturally, like most modern RPG games, you're presented with multiple endings depending on your decisions in-game, and most story missions can be tackled in a variety of ways. I'll admit, the ending was good, but it didn't hit me right in the feels as much as The Witcher did. But look, I need to try and stop saying that, because we're not comparing this game directly to The Witcher. It's a standalone RPG story, and in that respect, it's really good, and I was completely immersed and engaged throughout. The only real negative, there are a few minor plot holes. I won't get into them because obviously I don't want to spoil the game for you, but there were several moments where I was kind of scratching my head going, well, why didn't he just say that? Blah, 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 blah. We all know that plot holes exist everywhere, even in the best stories. For example, Disney impressively managed to launch an entire film trilogy consisting of millions of them. It can be overlooked, but it does lose a mark for it. 8. Setting. Now, I don't think I'm alone in saying the thing I look forward to most in an open world RPG is the world itself. Exploring the area, finding lore, Easter eggs, and interesting occurrences is why I'm so in love with this genre. And Night City is immense. There's clearly a very strong Tokyo vibe. That's a really lazy comparison when you consider that I've never actually been there, but the city is really busy, almost unattractively so. Most people will know that some of the most visited cities in the world, such as Venice, London, Paris, etc., are actually pretty shit if you live there. Night City is full of smog, traffic, people, and above all, crime. The way the game offers gigs, which are essentially freelance crime jobs, is a further way to explore all of the different districts. Perhaps one very harsh criticism is that there isn't a huge amount of difference between the districts. A lot of the streets look quite similar in terms of class system and style, and it would have been nice to see some more poorer areas and more affluent ones too. Outside the city, you have the Badlands, which is a large desert area. Your chosen backstory will affect how much time you spend there specifically. I chose a street kid play, meaning the streets and the smog were my home. That said, the Badlands, when they're on missions, is really cool, and although not heavily populated because it's not supposed to be, there's a lot to explore. 9. Characters. Cyberpunk operates a mobile phone system, very similar to that of GTA. Don't worry, we have no Romanian cousins who are addicted to bowling in this game, but by the end of it, this cellular device will be full of lots of interesting characters, from fixers to romantic interests and acquaintances that we meet along the way. NPCs, I feel, don't add a huge amount to the game, they're kind of just there.
Kiss my tits, punk!
The most important character is, of course, V, our very own customizable character. I spent an hour designing my male V. About 20 minutes of that hour was zoomed in trying to get my desired penis until my girlfriend walked in and I had to explain what on earth I was doing. With penis finally complete, I changed my mind and instead opted for a woman and spent a further hour designing boobs and vaginas. Well, just one vagina actually, but it was a nice one. Our chosen backstory gives us a nice intro to the game, which changes depending on which of the three we choose. My worry with this mechanic was that it was going to just provide us with a different intro, and that was it. But thankfully, there is huge benefits to your backstory as the game progresses. It opens different dialogue options and makes certain missions harder or easier depending on which one you chose. My female V was wonderfully voiced by Charami Lee, and I've only heard good things about Gavin Dreyer, who voices male V. The whole cast, in fact, performed brilliantly in this game. And of course, we have Johnny Silverhand, portrayed by the incredible Keanu Reeves. You spend more time with Johnny than any other character in this game, and his dry wit, charisma, and sarcasm is just a joy to behold. 9. Gameplay. So an area which some might say CD Projekt Red are less competent at. I did a Witcher 3 story recap a few months ago on this channel, and lots of people commented saying, look, I love the story, but I couldn't finish it because it had really bad gameplay. Now, I personally had no problem with The Witcher's gameplay, but I'm merely one very easily pleased gamer. That said, Cyberpunk feels really refreshing. Combat can feel difficult to begin with, but once you progress and acquire perks, skills, and new weapons, it can be really satisfying. My tip to you would be to decide very early on which type of fighter you want to be. That way you can craft the right weapons and acquire the useful perks. I relied a lot on stealth and when detected, preferred to use swords and short combat weapons to dispatch of my enemies. Driving is good, but nothing new or revolutionary. A lot of my fellow reviewers have compared a lot of gameplay to GTA, which I guess kind of makes sense. The driving mechanics aren't too dissimilar from that series, and in fact I'd say it's probably more challenging in Cyberpunk 2077. For example, the faster cars in the game require a good amount of skill to not spin out, which I personally find quite rewarding. Conversations are good and dialogue choices are easy to make, with occasional choices having a time limit to crank up the pressure, which did cause some post-traumatic stress backflashes to Telltale's The Walking Dead series. Oh, Lee, I miss you, buddy. The inventory and progression system is nice, clean, and easy enough to follow, even if some of the perks are a little bit shit, pointless, call it what you want. An area of improvement would be to add a try-on feature when I want to craft or buy an item of clothing. This was a weird thing to be left out of a game because most RPGs will preview what you look like in a certain type of clothing. Fashion is everything in Night City, and I often spend money on an item which just looks utter shite when I put it on V. Crafting, again, is pretty straightforward. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but I'm glad it's there. My favourite element of gameplay was the net running. This allows you to use your cyberware to take out cameras, disable enemy guns, and hack computers. Once you're familiar with how it all works, it really is invaluable. And yes, my horny little friends, prostitutes are readily available.
Give your meat a good old rub.
Although a small part of me was kind of hoping for an interactive element. This is Cyberpunk after all. You know, maybe just like a spam X to shag faster button. Never mind. The gameplay scores 8.5. Visuals. So it's worth stating again, I played this game on PS4, so I wasn't expecting groundbreaking graphics. What you see now will naturally be much better on PC and next gen. However, I did think maybe it would be slightly better. Some of the visual flaws are mainly down to bugs, which I'll cover in our next category, but some of the visuals just wasn't as crisp or dynamic as I was expecting. However, what I really do like is the options given to us to actually personalize our own visual performances. For example, there are several effects within the in-game settings which can be turned on or off to suit our own preferences. I quickly worked out what my favourite blend of visuals was, which did help the game. A nice inclusion by the devs. Visual score, a 7. bugs. Whew. Okay, I'm not going to harp on in this category, as personally I kind of grew sick and tired very quickly of reading the hundreds of articles from gaming outlets, all of which basically said the same fucking thing. Yes, the game is really buggy. Now, personally, I think that some people are overreacting. Some of the hate that CD Projekt Red is getting is slightly unfair. From my review so far, you should already know this is a very good game. Like, really good. The issue is the game was released before it was ready. Simple as that. Possibly due to the numerous delays the game already had, or possibly to try and hit those Christmas sales, or both. Either way, they fucked up. Fine. We can be angry and scream and shout, but basically it doesn't matter. What matters now is moving forward. If this was EA or Ubisoft, I'd say, well, it's fucked then, no point playing this game. But it's not. It's CD Projekt Red, one of the few large developers that actually care and listen to their audience. They'll get it fixed, and if you're watching this review in a few months' time after I released it, they probably already are fixed. Let's not forget The Witcher 3 had a lot of issues on release. Okay, not on this scale, but it was a long way off the masterpiece that we all know today. I can handle gameplay or visual bugs. Most of them just make me laugh, but I do get frustrated when it affects my progress or story. On launch day, the game would completely crash once an hour, which really dampened that new game excitement you get on launch day. As I speak, we've had 2 patches and I still get game crashes, albeit less frequent. The other annoying element is via the mobile phone system. Although generally good, I'll be in a conversation during a mission which is important to the narrative, then I get a phone call from someone about another mission, meaning I'll have 2 conversations overlapping. This happened a lot. So to summarise, no one is going to blame you for holding off a couple more months until the game is deemed fixed and clean. But please, don't let this initial messy launch put you off the game completely. 3. Length. Main story alone, the game comes in at around 30 hours according to surveys, and I'd roughly go along with that. Now, if you're a seasoned RPG gamer, you'll know that's pretty short. That said, I've put way more than 100 hours into this game, running around, doing gigs, side missions, and genuinely just dicking around. Plus, there is a DLC on the way, and we all know CD Projekt Red's reputation for those. So, you'll sink a lot of time into this game, for sure. Although, I think the main story had an opportunity for a few more hours. 7. Fun. It's hard not to think of the bugs when I ask myself, is this game fun? It really is fun, and I've been deeply immersed in a proper sweaty boxer shorts pot noodle gaming session, and then the game has crashed. So it's kind of staggered fun. But like I said, the bugs will be sorted. I stake my very small reputation as a YouTube reviewer on that very statement. I have no doubt. So yes, the game is fun, there's lots to do and explore around Night City, and the hundreds of gigs are all very different in story and style, which keep it fresh. Maybe to crank it up one more mark, I would have liked to have seen some more RPG activities. Maybe a bit of darts in a bar, cinemas, and maybe some random encounters whilst free roaming. However, it does score 8. Replayability. Would you play this game again? Yes. I'm already looking forward to the moment I see my gaming friends saying that the bug issues are gone and the game is clean. I'll be jumping straight back in with a different character build and a different backstory. The trio of life path stories you choose at the start of the game, being Corpo, Street Kid and Nomad, already provide at least 3 playthroughs. 9. Value. So as we're still relatively close to the launch, it's still at release price, which is $50/$50. When you consider the current bugs, no, that's not good value. If it were clean, then yes, the game provides you with enough fun, craft and content for that price, but I always review this category as a right here, right now as I speak type. So with the performance issues right now, I have to say no. Wait until the sales or until the game is fixed. 5. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching this review. I do love CD Projekt Red. They're probably my favourite developer, but I do have to hold them accountable for their god-awful performance bugs. But let's not taint a whole company for one issue. Credit to the writers and the brilliant minds who envisioned and created this wonderful city and story. As always, this is just my humble opinion, and you can absolutely disagree, but this is a good game. No, it's not the industry-defining game we were all expecting, but a good game. For more reviews and other gaming videos, please hit subscribe.